Hi, I'm Cindy Olsen and welcome to Senior Beat. Today we'll be talking about seniors cautious about money, also known as scam. Today's guest is Groton Town Police Officer Sean O'Brien. Sean, welcome.
Good to be here.
Thanks for coming and talking about this very important information.
Not a problem. Glad to be here.
The scam, like I said, it's for seniors cautious about money, about their money.
Yep.
You and Kathy Williams of the Groton Senior Center diligently worked hard on this. Can you tell us a little about the program? It was a program that was offered at the Groton Senior Center in the fall. Why was this important to do in our town?
So I don't want to also leave out Mary Jo because she did a great job.
Oh, yes, the grant writing.
But if anyone has ever been to the Senior Center, you know that Kathy can be quite a force when it comes to getting things done. So she did what any diligent employee did. She called me and told me to get down there and help her with it. So, but there was a grant being offered through the National Council on Aging.
Correct.
That was being presented by them and the Walmart Foundation. So we're trying to just lessen the amount or educate the public on the financial exploitation, of its elderly community or the older community. So we put a packet together, submitted it to the National Council on Aging, and we were chosen as one of the recipients of the grant. So,
which is great.
Yeah, it's really great actually, because there were only 4 nationwide that were chosen out of all the senior centers. Yeah. 3 of them I think were in the Midwest, and we were the only one in the Northeast to get it. So it was a $10,000 grant to help this community fight the financial issues or scams that we're having, but also to help build a pilot program for the nation, us and the 3 other
sites.
Sites. So, but we've held a couple sessions, about 4 at this point, and they've been pretty popular, and a lot of information getting out there. So
yeah, I heard every one of your sessions was pretty much sold out, even though these were free classes, thanks to the grant again and Mary Jo getting those. The pilot program on financial exploitation of older adults. We at the Groton Senior Center serve those 55 and older, but older adults, I mean, even today I got an email that I just shown you just today from somebody, a work contact, who otherwise, we're always strictly work, and I get this weird email from her today saying, hey, I'm looking to touch base with you. A friend of mine is hospitalized with cancer. Can you send $500 worth of iTunes gift cards? So this is something that happens at the workplace, at the home. You guys doing this is very preventive.
Yeah,
hopefully.
I mean, we're trying to do that as a local police department, and it's hard for us to go after, we can go after the computer trail as far as IP addresses and finding all that, but with VPNs and all sorts of different technology that's way over my head, these scammers can be on the other side of the world trying to get the money from our community. So one of the best things we can do is educate the community on how to do it. That's the best way to prevent it.
I agree fully.
So
teach them the red flags.
Teach them the red flags, test them a little bit, talk about information that they have actually on the internet.
Yep.
And I surprised a couple of them during the session.
Oh yeah, that was incredible.
Yep, and that was actually one of the things that the National Council on Aging was, I think why we were chosen, was to kind of actually make them listen to scam phone calls, kind of take scam phone calls and kind of work through it, like working examples.
Yeah.
But also, I did a little research, and I had people who maybe aren't as savvy with the computer and investigating, do some research that they could find on people that were attending the class because they pre-register.
Right.
And the amount of information that people have out there and they don't realize it. You know, there was a gentleman who gave a review about.
Wasn't it a trip or something?
He
for
gave
a restaurant?
Yeah, he gave a review about a restaurant or something. So I know he had been there. I think somebody was registered with their email address at as an alumni from a college.
Yep.
And what they had graduated 40, 50 years ago. So they were very surprised when I told them that what year they graduated and all that. But you know, just that information that I can get, and I'm not looking.
And you weren't even trying.
Yeah, and I'm not using it for nefarious means.
Right.
Somebody else can get, and you know, you get a call from the alumni, and yeah, I'll donate money or things like that, or an email. You know, and this is the stuff that's out there. You wouldn't think. Yeah. So it's again, seniors cautious about money, trying to make sure that they are fully aware of who they're talking to, and it's not a random person on the phone.
It's kind of scary to me to think like how hard these scammers work. I mean, this is their full-time job. They are legit out there going hardcore, and they do not care if they upset you. They do not. They hurt people's feelings.
Yeah. So unfortunately, one of the side effects of the outsourcing was sending a lot of the customer service jobs to these other countries, and these scammers are trained initially for means that are positive, in the sense that a financial company or a technology company will train this person on how to win you over.
Right, telemarketing procedures.
They'll, you know, if you have a problem with a computer and you call them, you could be speaking to somebody in some country in Asia or Africa or Europe.
Yeah.
And they're specifically trained on how to, as the client, as the customer, how to make you feel positive, sales tactics, things like that. And unfortunately, not everyone uses these learned tactics for good. Yeah. They use it for nefarious means, such as scamming.
Yeah.
And they cast a very wide net.
Very.
Even at the police department, we ourselves will get random phone calls.
Yeah.
And, you know, my father, he called me just to verify that something was not legit. And I'm like, that's not.
Yeah.
He's like, well, he keeps calling me. I'm like, just hang up, you know?
So, unfortunately, this show is not as long as probably what this topic deserves, but what are some of the red flags? So we mentioned the emails, we mentioned the phone calls. I know sometimes it's a mailing. So let's start with phone calls. What are red flags?
Types of high pressure sales tactics, things like that again. Again, if you didn't initiate the conversation, if this isn't a service that you realize you needed, then you need to question why this phone call is even occurring.
Right, because the Social Security won't call you, IRS won't call you.
No, IRS is not going to call you.
Right.
You know, if you don't pay your taxes, you know, you're going to get something official in the mail, very official, and you can contact you know, your local IRS office to verify.
Right.
And the same with Social Security. Social Security actually encourages you to go to their website now and create an account. And that way you can get all your communication through them that way and be aware of any sort of issues. And
that's great.
It's a very secure process.
Okay.
So, and they want everyone to do that. Somebody my age, somebody older. Me doing it for my kids, you know, just registering.
Or kids doing it for us.
Yeah, or kids doing it for us. But yeah, I mean, some of the red flags, it's the high pressured stuff.
Yeah.
And what happens, unfortunately, is I teach at a college, and the younger generation has grown up with events like 9/11 and the Great Recession.
True.
And a lot of issues involving a distrust, you know, where an Iraq war, things like that. So this generation's come up really
More
not kind of
tainted?
trusting
Yeah.
a lot of things, whereas the older generation, they're very trusting.
Very.
And they wouldn't think that somebody would call them and say things like, use these high pressure sales taxes,
Right.
which, it's unfortunate in this society that they have to maybe start questioning these things, but, they have to be able, again, use caution and kind of realize what's going on. They don't
Yeah.
want to, with the high pressure sales tactics and some of the language they'll use, they want to make you feel like you have to do this.
Yes.
One of the highlights that kind of evolved, and it was Kathy's idea, it was great, was to actually have
Yes, some of
senior
the
senators
seniors.
that have been scammed in town to come in and talk, because that's one of the biggest issues is the stigma that kind of exists, because even someone who's watching this will say, well, it won't be me.
Well, and that's the thing is, they don't discriminate. The people who are scamming, they don't care if you are the person who has $100,000 versus $1,000.
Yeah, you're believed to have money, and I believe the over 55 communities,
Especially.
especially, they have lifetimes of savings. They're responsible for a lot of the sales.
Oh yeah,
And,
the highest
purchases in those
marketing.
countries.
Yes, the highest marketing for retail.
So whether or not you have $200,000 or $200 in the bank as a senior,
They don't care.
they don't care. They're going to try to target you, as opposed to someone who's younger who may question that phone call. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we had people come in and talk about how they themselves were pressured into buying gift cards,
Yes.
reading the gift card numbers for Target and Best Buy and all sorts of different types of businesses. So getting the stigma out there and kind of letting people hear from themselves, it's a great way to,
They kind of connect with like, oh, I know her, and she had this under her. Like, wow,
and unfortunately, as part of the aging process, it's a natural thing to, not have a grip on your faculties like you once had. And a lot of people, they don't want to admit to it, so they'll
Yeah.
say that they weren't scammed or they know
Right.
it's legit. And again, we're not saying don't donate money and don't try to help people who you think need help,
Right.
but you need to have things verified and don't trust just the single source on the phone.
Right.
Especially, again, if you didn't initiate the phone call.
I was just going to say that if you didn't initiate it, if it's not something you're familiar with,
Mhm.
if something seems off.
Mhm.
I remember one of Groton's finest came over and we were talking. We had a little session. And he said, if it walks like a duck
Mm-hmm.
and it talks like a duck, it's usually a duck. So
Yep.
if it seems off,
Yeah, and
just
that's
question it.
just it.
And you know what? It's okay to be like, you know what? Let me get your phone number,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll call you guys back tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Because I had an insurance plan when I lived with my brother 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Apartment insurance, and all of a sudden I get called
Yeah.
last year about an open claim, which I never had because I only had this insurance for a year, never did anything with it.
Right.
And
Isn't crazy
what I
what
like
they
to
found?
do, and some of my coworkers like to do, we actually keep the telemarketers, or we keep these scammers on the phone
Do you?
to, just kind of mess with them, if you will, because the more time they're spending talking to me, the less
Less.
time they're going to talk to somebody else
Yeah.
to scam them.
How
And
about-
I don't recommend everybody do that,
Yeah.
but, it's kind of a red flag to us right away. So,
I know one of the things we tell people in some other classes we've had on this topic is if you don't know the phone number, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to let it go to voicemail.
oh, absolutely.
It's okay to not answer that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? If it's important, they'll call back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's also generational.
It's definitely a generational thing because I will text my mother or my father something, and then they'll call me.
Yes.
I'll be like, "Why are you calling me?
Yeah.
Text me." Whereas the older generation, it'd be rude to not answer the phone.
Well, that's the thing is, yeah.
And and there's a method called spoofing where with these
was just gonna
computers
ask,
they
yes.
can make a phone number show up when they call that's actually not the number they're calling from.
Right.
a trusted number.
So I think it was like a year ago that people were actually claiming that they were getting calls from Groton Police saying Groton Police, but it wasn't Groton Police.
Yeah.
That's a spoofing.
Yeah.
Okay.
With the police. So if we
Right.
want to talk to you, we're going to show up at your house. And that's
Okay.
kind of the way it works with law enforcement and, most of the agencies, things like that. There's going to be something more official than just a random phone call. So
Right.
what we try to get people to do, and the one thing we kept repeating during our
Your scam class?
our scam class, is to just hang up.
Yeah.
End the conversation right then and there. Take some time, think about it. There's nothing that is rushed, which
Exactly.
these scammers will try to keep you.
They keep you on.
They keep you on your toes. They
Yep.
keep you alarmed, and again, having an unsurety about how to use computers and things like that.
They almost they make you question yourself.
They make you question yourself. You're having issues. They may have, at some point, there could have been some sort of malware or
Yep.
some sort of computer software that got
Virus
installed
protection,
that
yeah.
you accidentally downloaded, and they remote access your computer.
Yeah.
They'll have you open your bank account. They'll screenshot the bank account. They will change the numbers in there, and they can make it show up like that's what your account actually looks like. And what we recommend for people to do is, in that case, if you know how to do it, disconnect the internet. Break that pipeline.
Yeah, there you go.
I know for our our technology and computer experts at the police department, if something like that happens, they don't want the computer off per se, because they would like to look at it, because sometimes these things will delete if the computer gets shut off.
Yep.
But if there is really an issue with your computer, which a lot of times that's a scam, where there's an issue with
That's
your computer.
usually the first call, yeah.
There's tons of businesses, local. There's
Yeah.
chains that
You
have.
can bring it into the Groton Senior Center and see Wally or Dick.
Yep, and go to the senior center where they can talk to you. They'll plug your computer in and see if there's anything going on with it. Nothing has to be rushed, especially if it's not something that you were looking to have done anyways.
I think that's highly important because these phone calls, these alerts come over to the older adults, and it's the sense of urgency that puts you off balance. And
Yep.
once you're off balance, you start questioning yourself, and you're like, okay, well, maybe, this person is right. Okay, yeah, I do have to give them this money right now. Oh, you know what, maybe I do remember talking to so-and-so saying I was having
Could
computer
have been,
problems.
yeah, exactly, and
But-
that's what they rely on. They rely
Yeah.
on you questioning yourself, and as we discussed earlier, off camera, about sometimes with the emails.
Yes.
You'll read an email and somebody, there may be a typo in it, and
Yeah.
or the logo of the company is a little different than the
Yes.
actual company, but it looks familiar.
But it's just
Whereas,
off.
you and I would probably look at it and be like, well, obviously that's a scam because there's a
Right.
look at all the typos.
Because we know. but-
English isn't their first language or something
Yeah.
along those lines. But in reality, those typos and the logo change are intentional, because they want to, when they cast this net, they want to catch the fish that's not paying attention to details. They want to get somebody to contact them that may not check into things, because that's somebody they know they can exploit.
Right.
If you read the email and you catch the error, then that's not someone they want to get on the phone with, because they know that may be a waste of time for them, or
Right.
things like that. Because again, it may come through the internet, it could come through the phone, it could come through both
Yeah.
as well. We also warn about contractors coming to the house.
Yeah, can we talk about that a little more?
Yeah, if you have Groton Utilities or Eversource or anyone, or Public Works or anybody who comes to your door, there's nothing to say that you have to let them in. You can
Okay.
explain to them, okay, you are from Groton Utilities. I'm just going to call Groton Utilities to verify you are who you are.
Yep.
Because anybody can go on the internet and print out a logo.
Right.
Anyone can make a an identification card. So, this, again, don't feel the urgency. Talk to somebody through the official channels that exist.
Yeah.
And if you don't know them, obviously the senior center and the police department can help in regards to that. But
so don't open your door.
They do a lot of distraction techniques, things like that.
Yeah.
They want to go downstairs and check the meter while their partner goes in and maybe takes something from upstairs while you're downstairs with this other person. So, it's just not online, and it's not just strangers either.
Right.
Because unfortunately, with the financial issues, and some people have issues with narcotics and opiates, grandma and grandpa may be the easy place where they know they can get money. So
because maybe mom and dad didn't tell them everything.
Mom and dad haven't told them everything. So just be cautious of family members who show up back in your life and start having controlling type behavior, not letting you talk to the other family members, things like that, discouraging you, kind of breaking off any kind of outside communication. And this could be someone you've trusted for years, and
are they necessarily looking for money, or are they looking to? It's a longer term.
Yeah, I mean, it could be an issue with it could be issue with money or things like that, but it really comes down to staying connected to the community.
Yeah.
So have an outside source other than one person, and I know it's difficult.
It is, yeah.
Some people rely on a caretaker or one or two family members, but try to keep outside conversations just so they can, have some sort of sense of what's going on as far as scams. Because, again, at the senior center during this program, get rid of the stigma, talk to others, educate each other, and let them know about things like that.
It can happen to any of us.
Any of us, absolutely. So
I think something else that should be noted is that for those who are caring for an older adult who may not have access to computers and whatnot, who aren't aware of that right in our community, this week there's a scam coming from Social Security. Talk to your loved one about it, and maybe kind of socialize them more. So
yeah, absolutely. I know the Groton Senior Center, you guys are active on Facebook. The town police.
We try to share all your stuff.
We're active on Facebook. We try to stay on top of it and let people know about scams in the area, because people call us at least, I'd say, once a shift and say the IRS called me and things like that. And again, they may want your phone number, or they may want your address, things like that.
Yeah.
And the IRS should have that information, especially if they're calling you.
And that's one thing to think about. Slow yourself down. Don't feel rushed, and think about the fact that if it is the IRS, they should have this information. If it's Social Security, they know this information. Don't give out those pertinent things. Sean, we only have a couple minutes left, so I want to make sure we touch on a couple things. One, you don't have to answer the phone.
You don't have to answer the phone.
You can hang up the phone.
It's not rude to hang up, especially if the other person's giving you a lot of high pressure stuff.
One thing I like to tell some of my friends over at the senior center is that you need to protect yourself. And so you're almost advocating for yourself. So think of it that way. You're being your own superhero or your own protector. Don't feel like you're being rude.
Yeah.
It's just remember that person's being rude. They're trying to steal from you.
Yeah, absolutely. They're the person in the wrong, and they may have different ethics than you, a different culture than you.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter as far as what they believe. You need to protect yourself.
Yeah.
And you need to make sure that the person you're talking to is legitimate.
Yeah. And it's okay if you make a mistake and think that maybe it was legit, and after the fact you'll be like, sorry, I was just protecting myself.
Yeah. We've had people come to us after the fact, and we'd rather they come to us after the fact than not at all.
Right.
Because it could set them up for the future to protect themselves a little more. We don't want them to continue getting scammed, things like that.
If somebody thinks they are scammed, what should they do?
Well, you can call the police department.
Call police department?
Yep.
Okay.
Our phone number is online and in the phone book.
Yep.
If
Do you
live-
call 911?
No, 911 is more of an emergency.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So you can call the main number,
desks,
which
yep.
is 441-6712. You can call the city police department if you live there, or Groton Long Point Police
Or
Department.
Leisure or wherever, yeah.
Yeah, wherever you live, and they can let you know about if it's a scam. Go to the police department and talk to an officer. We have an officer that sits right off
At
the
the desk,
lobby,
yeah,
right there
okay.
to talk to somebody. So, definitely take the steps to protect yourself.
Yeah.
That's the big thing.
Yeah.
And
And don't be embarrassed. Please don't be embarrassed, because there's so many people who this happens to.
Yep.
Sean, thank you so much.
No
this
problem.
has been, again, we have a plethora of information and we didn't
we have
even
a lot of
squeeze it all
information,
in.
and we're hoping to have a couple more of these talks soon.
Hopefully in the spring, yep.
Again, thank you to Kathy and Mary Jo and the Walmart Foundation,
And we thank you for
the
doing
council. No,
all
not
your
a
work
problem.
too.
Just do what I'm told.
One thing you mentioned that I want to say is we are having a fashion show, a safety fashion show in April, so you can know what a true uniform looks like versus a fake uniform. So stay tuned. Thank you again for being on Senior Beat.
No problem.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in.